Great afternoon, my beautiful pandemic people. I'll just give it a few seconds. I know many people are actually already having service online and out in the yards, maybe even at the swimming pool, in the beach, or even shopping, because I know things are starting to open up. But as I was spring cleaning my room, of course, a message dropped into my spirit that I had to get on here and share with you. So I'll just give it a few seconds and let you know ahead of time. You may see some movement here. I'm like literally out in the middle of my house in the dining room. Hey, Scarlett. Yana, thank you for joining. I hope you guys are having a beautiful pandemic day. Hey, Susan, thank you for joining. The reason why I chose to talk about loving your enemies is because this has really been coming up a lot here recently with some very close friends and family. Just the challenges of growing pains. And I personally have already, hey, boo boo, what's up? Thank you for joining. I've already been through some really, really challenging times where loving your enemies is concerned. So I just thought, you know what? It's story time. I may as well get on here. Because the thing is, real life application is what helps people relate and learn and grow. You can quote scripture all day, but if you can't back it up, it's easy to say love your enemies and turn the other cheek and bless those who curse you. It's easy to say that. But unless you yourself have actually walked it out. So I have a couple of stories I could share with you about that. And what I can also tell you is that, when people ask sometimes, well, what do I contribute to my success or my peace or, just appearing to just have it all together, which I don't. But I do have peace and I do have joy and I feel like I do have success. Now, success is defined differently for everyone. Everyone has their own idea of success. Success isn't necessarily, no one can define your success. Success is what it is to you. Success could just simply be peace of freaking mind. Okay? Peace of mind, right? Ridding yourself of toxic relationships, toxic situations, just literally having freaking peace. That could be considered success. And of course, money, wealth, prosperity, tangible things like that can be considered success as well, to the person. But those things can be fleeting. They can come and they can go. So anyway, hey, thank you, Tara, for joining. So I will just jump right in, first of all, to the scripture, and then I will share a little bit of my story about how loving my enemies truly blessed my life. There's another scripture that says that God will make your enemies your footstool. I'm a witness. Okay. But in order for that to happen, there is some things that you must do. There is some work on your part that has to be done. And that's the thing that is the hardest thing to do. How do you love someone who is disrespectful? How do you love someone who is ratchet? How do you love someone who hates you without a cause? How can you love someone who blatantly throws shade or blatantly ignores you or blatantly, walks side by side with you, but can't really stand you and talking about you behind your back and it's all coming? How can you love someone who's picking on you or treating you unfairly or differently, right? How can you do that? From a human perspective, just 100% human and ego, it's impossible. But with God, all things are possible. And I changed the word impossible to I'm possible because I know that there's greater in me. I am connected to the source of all things. I am filled with that same energy that gave us the breath of life and we became living souls. So anyway, this is coming from Matthew chapter 6, starting in verse 43. And it reads, "You have heard it said that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Why? That you may be sons and daughters of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good. He sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do you not even know that tax collectors do the same? And if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so? Therefore, you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Okay? So, loving your enemies. Story time. And I'll try to make it as brief as I can because there's a lot of details in there. But I had a previous employer, and the person who hired me, after a few years, no longer worked there, and we got a new manager. I'll call it a manager. This person came in hot. Okay, came in hot. I mean, looking back, I could see several different factors that contributed to the behavior of this person, but at the end of the day, they came in hot. They had something to prove. You know, they were a female in a male-dominated organization. Our place of employment was very challenging. We had issues or whatever, and, they were there to crack the whip and clean it up. Well, I considered myself someone who, was a decent associate. I had my issues. I certainly wasn't perfect, but I was also in my journey with God, walking through this path with God and coming to know him and his ways and his will for my life. And so I was being faced with challenges each and every day, like things coming against you to purge out that old man. Your ego wants to, strike back, cuss out, fight, retaliate, have the last word, just constantly defending yourself, constantly having to be right, constantly, not even really examining yourself and seeing the things that need to be purged from you. And so this place that I worked was the perfect university for all of these things to transpire and for me to grow spiritually. So I have been trained on every single aspect of, the jobs that were, encompassing this place of employment. I was like the district trainer, just had it going on, lived in the town I worked in, life was good. Well, I happened to see this manager. Now, mind you, the manager came in hot, but she knew that my husband and I were believers. And so because I worked in a certain area on the screen line, there's a lot of things that were going on in the back that I did not see or wasn't apprised to anymore because I had shifted and been promoted to another position. Well, you come to work, you do your job, and you just do what you do, right? And life is good for you. You see the manager, you speak, hey, hi, quote a couple of scriptures, talk about Sunday and all that good stuff, all the good stuff, right? Well, I'm hearing from others how horrible this manager is. I'm hearing like, oh my gosh, she's words that I don't even want to use right now, but everything other than a child of God. Okay. And I was just like, what? Because she was so super nice to me and my husband. And I'm just like, nah, you feel that way because you ain't doing your job or, I was oblivious. Okay. I had my little blinders on. Well, it just so happens that one day, as I walked off the screen line to go retrieve someone's mail, I actually heard this manager go off on another associate. And when I tell you that she was so disrespectful and demeaning, and she was on the floor and she did it in front of the other employees as well as customers that were in line could see and hear this. It was horrible. Like, my heart sank for the person who she was talking to. I was embarrassed at that time to have on that uniform and be working in this situation right now. I was just floored. Like, I was shocked. And I was like, oh my God. So, you know, people have bad days or whatever. So I go into her office and I say, hey, because we're both believers, right? We should be able to have this conversation. We're supposed to hold each other accountable, right? So because I built up a rapport with this manager and was in her good graces, I just felt like I could speak up. So I go in there and I'm like, hey, do you think that that was the appropriate way to handle that situation? And when I tell you, this person did everything but spin her head around and spit out green stuff on me, baby, let me tell you, do you want to be me? Do you want to walk 2 days in my shoe? Like, she went completely off on me. And I was like, hey, it's cool. You know, I'm going to leave it there. It's maybe I'll mind my business. So that happened. Then over time, there were other incidences that were being brought to my attention, and then I'm actually witnessing these situations, and I'm feeling some kind of way, like, this is not the way. First of all, a manager should, in this status, should be behaving themselves, and then number two, you a believer, right? You come in here quoting scriptures and all this other stuff, speaking in other languages and whatever. I'm not feeling you right now. So it got really to the point where I start feeling like somebody has to speak up, because we were working in a hostile work environment. So, you know, again, to condense this, of course, me being the crusader that I am, I went around and started talking to people and asking questions and was getting validation on the things that I was hearing. And then plus I had already seen from my own self how things were going. The environment was getting worse and worse. We had people out on stress leave. Subsequently, I ended up having to work overtime. I had actually bid on this other position because I had carpal tunnel and I didn't want to have surgery or, you know, go through the whole workman's comp process. And I'm trying to be a good employee. You know, we already had people dropping like flies because of stress. So with the overtime and everything, over time, having a case up mail like this, my wrist began to act up again, and I had to go to the doctor. And basically, I was told I couldn't couldn't case letters any more than 1 hour at a time. And so, which the time that I was doing it was for 2 hours straight. And I ended up being cited for, what did she tell me? I was told that I was a hindrance to the operation. And basically, I had to go downtown and face the Sanhedrin, whereas she was trying to really remove me from my job. And this is because we had written the Employees Association, Employees Assistance Association, that we were in a hostile work environment, that things weren't pleasant there. People were out on stress leave. Like, she was harassing people. It was horrible. When the work condition, it was like a dark cloud was over our office. So anyway, trying to keep my thoughts gathered together because I'm not even in that place anymore. So it's hard to tell that story with passion. But basically, she was trying to get rid of me. And even though I was the senior clerk at this office, I was reduced to working on letters, encasing mail, and just doing stuff that was in that I did before bidding on this position. And then less senior people, what we call PTFs, part-time flexible people, were placed in my position. And it just got to the point where, you know, it just wasn't right. And she was letting people that were part-time flexible associates be pushed up to management positions and supervisory positions when we were in the middle of a Christmas rush and needed everybody all hands on deck. So anyway, I ended up having to file a case, and I didn't file it with the intention of and when I tell you I didn't want to do this, with everything in me, I did not want to do this. Like, I'm not the person who wants to be in the system, or I didn't want to even be in this place that I was in. But it hadn't dawned on me yet that there were some lessons and that God was really, really trying to strengthen me and grow me up. Like, I was literally in the freaking fiery furnace with Nebuchadnezzar. You hear me? because I wasn't about to bow down to the BS. So I'm standing up for myself, for what is right, and for others who were being mistreated, who didn't have a voice, wasn't speaking up for themselves, because there was always some retaliatory, actions that would take place. So once I filed, that kind of helped a little bit. But in the meantime, through all of this, because I was shown who the person really was, I started to develop a hatred for her. I had never in my life, how little kids be like, I hate you, and they just say that. I didn't know what hate actually felt like until I was in this situation. Like, I was so consumed with it. I was coming home from work every day complaining about what happened today, and she did this, and this is what happened, and they said that. It was just, I was consumed. My family was probably sick. I wasn't the type of person who brought work home. So I know my family never complained. They just embraced me and loved me and allowed me that space. But I know I had to have been an irritation to them, a negative Nancy. I was so consumed. This positive, bubbly person that you see on a regular basis, that either makes you laugh or smile or whatever, that person had checked out. I was consumed. When I tell you I hated this person with every fiber of my being, no cap. And hate feels a certain kind of way. There is a weight and a heaviness with hate that you carry with you. And it just sucks the life out of you. While the person that you're hating is continuing to go on about their business, wrecking havoc, tearing up shit, doing whatever, being fake. Other people think, they're the most beautiful person in the world, and you are out here looking like the damn devil because you're responding to the way you're being treated. How many can relate to that? You being treated a certain kind of way, and you respond to the way you're being treated, but you are the one that the spotlight is on. You're the problem, okay? So it got to the point where I just literally was physically ill behind this, and I could no longer stand what hate felt like on the inside of me. And mind you, I was in church, I was in Bible study, prayer meeting, and Sunday school and all that. Hey sis, hey Angela. And but apparently I hadn't made it to love your enemies yet. But one day, it was so bad. The thoughts that were in my mind about this person and the hate that I was carrying with me, I couldn't see anything else. I couldn't see right, left, nothing, north, south. I was consumed, y'all. So, but I knew, my higher self was still in there crying and trying to, appeal to me. But I finally got to the point where I acknowledged that I was in a very bad place. And I remember, now this, don't try this at home, but I literally ripped off all my clothes. I'm home by myself one day, and I just literally stripped down to nothing, to my birthday suit. And I told God, I said, this is the way that I came into this world, and surely it is the way that I will leave it. I'm coming to you right now as humble, as broken, and as sincere as I know how. I said, help me. And I remember telling God that I know that this hate cannot reside in the same body with your love, because it's completely snuffing it out. And I couldn't breathe. Okay? I couldn't live. I couldn't breathe, man. So I cried my eyes out, and I told God I hate her. I hate her. Like, I literally said it out loud. And as I was confessing my sins to God, I literally began to feel the healing come over me. Like, it was like a gentle inhale, like a gentle hug. Like, I just felt a shift in the atmosphere when I began to confess my faults to God. When I began to tell him how I felt, how hurt I was, how betrayed I felt, how used and abused and mistreated. Like, I just told him everything. And then I said, I know this, you're not about this, but this is how I feel. I hate her. Like, I fucking hate her. And I don't want that to continue to live in me. You got to help me. So, cried, got up off my face. Within the next day or so, I was led to the scripture that I read before, Matthew 6, starting in verse 43. You have heard it said that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemy and bless those who curse you, and do good to those and pray for them who spitefully use and persecute you. So not only that, I think I might have researched enemies in the Bible wherever it came up. And then I came across the ones about if your enemy is hungry, give them something to eat. If they're thirsty, give them something to drink. If they strike you, turn the other cheek. So I've been down this road before. I'll come back to the other one. But right here, I said, okay, I'm going to literally apply this to my life. And so when I would have food, I would always get Chinese food on Fridays for lunch and sit in the break room and eat it. And it smells so good. But when he said, when your enemy is hungry, give them something to eat. And when they're thirsty, give them something to drink. And back then, this Pepsi came out. It was called Pepsi Twist that had lemon in it. I don't know if anybody remembers that. But this manager comes into the break room while I'm having my lunch. And I hear the Spirit say, offer her some of your shrimp fried rice. So I didn't do it. And then the next Friday came and I didn't do it. I heard the voice again and I still didn't do it. He's like, how am I going to work with you if you won't be obedient? You said that you don't want to hate. Apply my word. So it was really pressuring me. So the next Friday, subsequent Friday that I had it, she walked in to the break room and I said, hey, would you like some of my shrimp fried rice? Sure. And I was like, first of all, you don't even like me, but you're gonna take some of my food? What? And then I said, hey,